8 Days in New Orleans, Chapter 8, by Albert J. Pickett. This is recorded to celebrate the 8th anniversary of LibriVox. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For more information or to volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org. 8 Days in New Orleans, Chapter 8, The Roads in the Environs, the Town of Carleton, the Woodyards, River Bottoms, etc. Of the various delightful rides in the environs of the city, none affords so much interest as the route to Carleton. You reach that place on a railroad, commencing on the upper part of the second municipality, and running a third of the way through the suburbs of Lafayette, the remainder passing over a wide and lovely plain, with the Mississippi River on your left and the deep and dismal swamp on your right. It is impossible to conceive a more interesting level than this, for as far as the eye can reach, objects of both nature and art are most agreeably presented. The road first passes a splendid country seat, resembling in appearance our imperfect ideas of a French chateau, surrounded with shrubbery of the greenest shade, with orange trees covered with buds and blossoms, whose fragrance embalms the air, and burthened with golden globes which richly glitter in the sun. And next you see, spread out upon this beautiful plain, heads of cattle and sheep grazing upon the soft green sward, which none but the alluvial bottoms of the noble Mississippi can afford in such inviting varieties. Further on, you enter a pecan grove, resembling some of the oaks in our forest, but every tree alike, all of the same size, bearing aloft the nutritious nuts which make them so celebrated. The road passes by many handsome seats and villas, the style of which at once indicates the taste and wealth of the inmates. While enjoying this interesting ride, my mind suddenly fell back upon Orleans, and was at once wrapped in thoughts of futurity. An 100 years hence, where now browse those innocent cattle in undisturbed silence, where now grow the green grass, the vine, and the fig tree, will then be occupied by churches, towers, hotels, and theaters. What place is this? It is a part of New Orleans, the Queen City of America. Carleton is a small place, but contains some fine residences, and there is a large public garden, tastefully laid out, belonging to the railroad company. The sale of wood seems to be the principal employment of the inhabitants. Rafts containing 100 large logs, about 50 feet long, almost entirely of ash, pinned together, are floated down from all parts of the world above Orleans, from as high up as Missouri. While winding their way through the tortuous currents of the river, these raftsmen may be considered the most independent set of people that navigate the great watery thoroughfare. All boats and crafts avoid them, and they have nothing to fear. A small hut of the most temporary character, made of boards, and sometimes the bottom of an old yawl turned up, is all the covering these amphibious and nondescript watermen have. Upon landing, the raft is sold to the proprietor of the woodyard. A log at a time is hauled upon the levee by large chains attached to a stationary windlass. It is then sawed into blocks 4 feet long, bolted up, and put in cords, which are sold for $4. At one of the woodyards 30 hands were employed, and they sold $15,000 worth of wood per year. I must ask pardon for so often recurring to Mr. Calhoun's great inland sea. It is to me the most interesting of all objects. I sat upon the levee at Carleton. I saw it in all its might and majesty, nothing interposing to intercept the view. I thought of the countless numbers of rills, of the many creeks, of the numerous lakes, and of the untold rivers, rising in different regions and latitudes thousands of miles apart, combining every variety of minerals known to the continent, here passing by me, confined in one vast and deep channel, lashing its banks with violence, and pressing onward and onward its mighty waters to the briny sea. I cannot say, to its ocean home, for it has none. It finds no resting place in the Gulf like other rivers, but the sea groans and gives way to its immensity, and we find its discolored current far within the tropics. The reader of this number, being well acquainted with the low, marshy, dismal character of the several mouths of the Mississippi, will doubtless be surprised at being informed that there is a mountain there near 400 feet high. He has only to reflect that the river from Natchez to the Belize is usually from 300 to 400 feet deep. Across the bar, there is only 18 feet water. Beyond the bar, just in the ocean, the gulf is unfathomable. So then, the river, in going into the sea, has to pass over a mountain, which it is strange has not been washed away, for the river, as before observed, is not arrested on its onward course by the ocean to much extent. The levee at Carrollton is considerably higher than the plain upon which reposes the town. This great work, that has occupied the labor, time, and enterprise of Louisiana for years, appears to afford a permanent and durable protection from the floods of the river. It commences at Fort Plaquemines and extends to Baton Rouge, the distance of 163 miles, on the east side of the river. On the west side, it extends as high up as Arkansas. It will average 4 feet high and 15 feet wide, and follows the river in its winding course. A visitor, seeing no ditch from which the earth is taken to erect this artificial dike, is at first at a loss to know where the soil was obtained to make it. On the margin of the river, a continual deposit is forming, called batur. This is drawn back from the river and makes the levee. It soon becomes soil, and has given rise to much litigation, for ownership is exercised over it when formed. The levee has not given way in a long time to do any extensive damage. Near this place, in 1816, the river rising to an unprecedented height, broke through and inundated much of Orleans, but Governor Claiborne had a vessel sunk in the crevice, which stopped it. End of Chapter 8 of 8 Days in New Orleans, by Albert J. Pickett. Read by David Lawrence, in Central Florida, April 2013.